Hello, fourth grade. This is Miss Kyle. We are going to go through lesson 8.4 for GoMath today. Before we go through our lesson, we have some lesson expectations. The first one is for you to have a quiet spot to work where you can really be focused. The second thing I need from you is to have a positive attitude. I know that math can be tricky for many of us, but having that positive attitude will get you halfway there. After that, I do need you to have our Chapter 8 workbook or packet, or just a sheet of paper in front of you, and then a pencil to write with. No pens, please. I know a handful of you really like to work with pens, but pens do not allow us to easily erase if we need to go back and fix a mistake. So please, please, please have a pencil with you and have all these things ready to go before you continue. So if you're missing a quiet place to work, or if you're missing a positive attitude, go ahead and pause it, get where you need to be mentally, emotionally, physically, and then come back to me. Starting off, we're going to go over a little overview of 8.3. I know that was quite a few weeks ago, so let's talk about what we learned in 8.3. The key concept to do in 8.3 was to be able to multiply a whole number and a fraction. So go ahead and think to yourself for a moment, what would our product be, our answer be, if we multiplied 3 times 3/4? What would our answer be? What are the steps we take to get there? Give you another 10 seconds. All right, you have your answer? Let's take a look here. Oh my goodness. When we're multiplying a whole number times a fraction, remember we have to only multiply our numerator. So 3 times 3 would end up with 9. That's right. And we would keep our denominator the same because we can't just change our carrots to watermelons. So we end up with 9/4. Notice how our fourths do not change, and we are just multiplying our numerator times our whole number. So go ahead and take a look here at our multiplication problem. If we were to write out 2 times 1/6, know that we have two groups of 1/6 showing here. What would be our whole number in this case? Think to yourself. All right, that's right. Our whole number here is 2. Our fraction that we're working with, that we're multiplying by, take a moment to think about it. That's right, we're working with 1/6 of a whole. And last but not least, we have our product, which is our answer. So 2 times 1/6, think to yourself what that would be. And that's right, 2/6. I think you guys are all ready to jump into 8.4. I'm excited with you. Let's go on ahead. So for lesson 8.4, our learning goal is, oh, you know what? I'm going to have you read that learning goal to yourself first. So go ahead. You can read it out loud to a pet if you would like. All right, now my turn. We're going to read it together. So I can multiply a fraction or mixed number by a whole number. So the new skill, so what's different from 8.3 is now we are adding in a mixed number, which means right here, that's right, we have a whole number and a fraction. We're going to talk about that a little more in just a moment. So we have a mixed number and an improper fraction here. These are some key vocabulary words to know as we go through our lesson. So a mixed number is not just a fraction, but it is a mixture, a mix of both a whole number and a fraction. Whereas an improper fraction, can you tell what's a little bit funky about this one? That's right, there's a larger number on top than on the bottom. We have a larger numerator and then a smaller denominator. That's what makes it improper, which kind of means that it's just a little top heavy. So these are some important things to know as we're going through our lesson, so please take note of which one is which. Now, what I need you to do is to please have out your math workbook, lesson 8.4, to page 475. If you need a minute to go ahead and collect that for yourself, you didn't get to do that in the beginning, go ahead and pause the video right now and make sure you have this in front of you to the proper page. If you just have it to chapter 8 and not the correct page, you're not really going to be able to go along with me. So please make sure you have that page ready to go. So here we have unlock the problem. This is the first problem on page 475. Go ahead and read it to yourself for a moment. And now I'm going to go ahead and read it as well. Christina is planning a dance routine. At the end of each measure of music, she will make a 1 1/4 turn, or 1 1/4 turn. How many turns will she make after the first 3 measures of music? Well, some of you might be thinking, what is a measure? I have no idea. I've never heard that word in my life. Well, here's an example right here of what a measure is. It's about how many notes you have in one little section of music, how many notes you have per certain amount of beats. So that part doesn't matter so much to it being able to answer our problem, but that's just a little fun background knowledge that you can have and share with your family. You know what a measure in music is called, or is about. So let's think about this for a second. What would our equation be if we know that at the end of each measure, she makes 1 1/4 turn, and she needs to know how many turns she'll make after 3 measures of music? So I'll give you a hint. This is a multiplication problem. Think in your brain about what the equation would be. You're welcome to write it down if you have it now. And let's see if you got it. That's right, we're dealing with 3 times 1 1/4. And how are we going to do that? Wow. Well, I'll tell you that it doesn't take too much more. Just bear with me. I'm going to show you 2 different ways we can solve this problem. The first method, and this happens to be my preferred method, as in it's kind of my favorite. I think that it makes a little bit more sense to my brain. It's totally okay if the other way makes more sense to you, but I like this method, and here's why. What I've done here is use the distributive property. I'm splitting up my 1 1/4, so I'm just multiplying each part times 3 instead of putting them together right away. So what would that look like? Well, I would take 3 times 1, because that's my whole number that I'm dealing with here for my mixed number, and I end up with 3. And then I take that same 3 and I do 3 times 4, or sorry, 3 times 1/4, excuse me. So here I have 3 times 1/4, and I know I'm only multiplying across the top to my numerator, and I end up with 3/4. So when I put those 2 parts together, go ahead and think in your brain about what our answer would be. Feel free to pause it if you want to take a second to really try it on your own. And let's see if we got the same thing. Here I put them together and I ended up with 3 3/4. That's right, it doesn't take too much more than what you already know about multiplying a fraction. When you're throwing in a whole number in there, you just want to make sure that you're not ignoring it altogether. You're multiplying it as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at our second method. The second method, and this is the method that's used a little bit more in your workbook, but both ways will get you to the right answer. This way is saying, first, let's just change our mixed number into an improper fraction. So this here is our mixed number, 1 1/4, and it's saying, let's just change that so that it's just a fraction that we're dealing with, and then we can multiply, and then we can simplify. So let's see what those steps look like together. So first things first is we have to change up our fraction into a we have to change our mixed number into an improper fraction. Here are the steps right here for you on how to do that. Notice I have my magic C here, where I'm taking my whole number and multiplying it times my denominator. So my 1 times 4 equals 4. And then I'm adding that answer to my numerator. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. And then I'm putting it all over the same denominator, which I was dealing with here was fourths. And altogether we end up with 5/4. Simple enough. So now that I can see what my improper fraction is, I can multiply it like I normally do. I can just multiply my whole number times my numerator, which is now 5, and say, all right, I've gotten, what is it, you guys? That's right, 15/4. But here's the thing, is when you are solving these problems, it's really important to do what's called simplifying, which means that we're changing our answer back into a mixed number. I know, it sounds like a lot. Don't worry, it's not that challenging. You can absolutely do this. First step is that you divide your numerator divided by your denominator. So if my numerator is 15, dividing it by 4. And I solve using long division, or if you have another way of solving division, that works too, as long as you end up with a proper remainder. My second step is that I take that remainder and it becomes my new numerator in my mixed number. And then step 3 is that I'm bringing back my same denominator. Notice that it's over 4. We're still dealing with fourths. So altogether, when I take 3 times 1 1/4 using my second method, I still end up with the same answer of 3 3/4. So like I said, both methods work just fine. If you have one that you would prefer, that is absolutely okay. Just make sure that your end answer does not, that you're not turning in your answer as an improper fraction. It needs to be a mixed number in its simplest form is what we call that in math language. Let's go ahead and make sure that we put our complete answer when we're solving something like this. So from both methods, we learned that Christina will make 3 3/4 turns. All right, 4th grade. Now I would like you to give one of these methods a try. Here is a problem that you can find on page 476 of your math workbook. It says, try this. Find 5 times 2 2/3. Write the product as a mixed number. So here they're even reminding you, make sure that it's a mixed number when you're done. That's what your answer has to be in the form of. So go ahead and pause this video and try it on your own. You're welcome to go back and follow the same methods that I did. And then when you are ready to check your answer, go ahead and unpause the video and take a look at what I did to check your work. Alrighty, so using the first method, here's what I did, is I broke apart my 2 2/3, multiplied 5 to both of those parts, so 5 times 2 equals 10, 5 times 2/3 equals 10/3. Oh, but I can't just leave my answer like that. I have to put them together. So I end up with 10 10/3. But oh no, we ran into a little bit of an issue here. Is this still doesn't quite count as a mixed number because this fraction right here, that's improper. So I need to go back and follow my steps on converting it back to a mixed number here. So 10/3, I'm going to divide 10 divided by 3, end up with 3 remainder 1. Then my second step is to place my remainder as my numerator. So I have 3 1 over something, because step 3 is to bring back the same denominator I was using. So I end up with 3 1/3. So then I'm adding 10 plus 3 1/3 to find my final answer of 13 1/3. Now let's just say you went and used the second method. Here's the steps involved with that one. First, we had to take our 2 2/3 and convert it into an improper fraction. So when I do that, I multiply 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 more is 8, and I put it all over the same denominator. So we have 8/3. These are the same thing. They are just in different forms. So then I can say, okay, 5 times 8/3, I know to multiply just my numerator and my whole number, and I end up with 40/3. But I can't stop there. I need to convert it back to a mixed number. So in order to do that, I would follow my steps. First, I divide 40 divided by 3. I end up with 13 remainder 1. Then that remainder becomes my numerator, so 13 that's right, I bring back the same denominator, 13 1/3. So check that out. Both ways end up with the same exact answer, 13 1/3 both times. All right, I know that was a lot, so I'm really excited to hear your questions if you have any. Go ahead and take your time to log in to Think Central and give lesson 8.4 a try. So if you end up really struggling, I encourage you always to take a break if you need one. Go ahead and rewatch parts of this video on the steps on how to do it. And go ahead and also click on the step-by-step or the example icons if you're really struggling. These are here for you to use while you're going through Think Central. And if all of these methods fail, please reach out to your teacher. We are here to help you. Thank you so much for listening, 4th grade, and I will see you next time.